he's a restaurateur himself. So of course he worries about protecting restaurants. He feels that in his bones.
The economic state of the state. Governor Newsom's economic czar pushing a new initiative to get small businesses back on their feet. Will it work? And is the governor set to shut down even more businesses after a new wave of COVID cases? Former presidential candidate Tom Steyer joins me exclusively.
This is all really important work that we're all undertaking, and it cannot wait any longer.
It's been a month since the Fresno Commission for Police Reform launched. So what's being done? Will they be involved in the search for a new police chief? And the controversial decision over the selection of their vice chair. We'll talk about it with one of its members, Annalisa Perea. And our panel ready to weigh in, from a well-known local restaurant owner's beef with the health director to a politically charged tweet that is going unexplained by the newly named vice chair of the Fresno Commission for Police Reform. It's all on KC24 Sunday Morning Matters.
Now, from your local election headquarters, KC24, this is Sunday Morning Matters with your host, Alexan Balakian.
And good Sunday morning. I'm Alexan Balakian. Thank you for joining me, and please join the conversation at Real Alexan. Use the hashtag Sunday Morning Matters. Along the way, an exclusive with President Trump. Among the topics, his controversial take on the Confederate flag. But first, the state of California now under siege with a big surge in COVID cases.
This pandemic is still in front of us, continues to spread at rates we have not experienced here in the state of California since the beginning of this pandemic.
Our hospitals have some serious capacity issues and staffing issues that we are working through.
The pandemic hitting California the hardest this week. On Tuesday alone, the state recording the biggest one-day spike of infections with 9,500. Over the last week, there have been an average of 7,400 new cases and 69 new deaths per day. The Central Valley also seeing a big wave of cases and deaths this week. It has forced the governor to shut down indoor operations for restaurants, theaters, wineries, zoos, and museums. But gyms and hair salons remain open. So the big question is, can small and locally owned restaurants survive another shutdown? The one person tasked with rebooting and kickstarting the fifth largest economy in the world in the midst of this pandemic, former Democratic presidential candidate and Governor Newsom's point man for economic recovery, Tom Steyer, back with us here on Sunday Morning Matters. Tom, as you like me to call you, Tom, welcome back.
Alexan, it's great to be back with you.
Well, I want to start with this because the coronavirus seems to obviously becoming a bigger problem here in the state of California. Newsom's mask mandate is there. Do you suspect he's going to return to a shelter-in-place scenario in the coming weeks, or maybe even the days, as we've had some of our highest caseload and death toll this week?
What you know about Governor Newsom is that he has consistently throughout this time put health first. First of all, in terms of closing down the state first in the nation, and then in terms of designing the phased opening of our economy and the protocols for opening different businesses. So what you can know for sure that he's going to be data-driven by business, by county, in terms of making sure that first and foremost, we put health and safety first, predominantly because it's only when we have a healthy California that we can have the kind of robust recovery that everybody in California wants and that the governor desperately wants as well.
You said something important. You talked about data-driven, and we've seen that with our counties. But, you know, the one thing that I hear from restaurant owners, specifically here in the Central Valley, that they're just trying to survive. And obviously, some of those PPP loans did come through for some. Small businesses are having trouble hanging on. We'll get to your initiative in a minute. But the question is, restaurant owners are telling me, even though there's data, there's no data that suggests that these cases are being spread in restaurants that were closed down, the indoor restaurants that were closed down. So how do we calculate that?
Well, as you know, Alexan, the task force that I'm co-chairing is about economic recovery, advising Governor Newsom about jobs and employment. Mm-hmm. What I do know, I know that the governor puts health first. And I think that what we're increasingly seeing is that this is an airborne virus, and that following protocols that the governor has designed with his staff and with the advice of the task force, people who run thousands of restaurants, people who run tens of thousands of stores, is to make sure that we do it in a way that is safe for the people working there and for the customers. And that means that, you know, as you said, the governor and the state have been pushing really hard for disciplined masking. Absolutely, because that's a way that we can protect each other. And, you know, this is every part of the phasing and the protocols has been designed with the health and safety of Californians first as a way of preventing the spread of this virus. Governor Newsom has been very clear on that. He has been data driven. He worries, he's a restaurateur himself. So of course he worries about protecting restaurants. He feels that in his bones. But in order for us to have a robust recovery and save this economy and these jobs, first we have to get the health right.
Well, this week, as you know, and we're going to talk about this, you're pushing to buy local. You know, how does that work if Governor Newsom is shutting down some of the indoor operations for tens of thousands of businesses, as you mentioned?
Well, the campaign that you're talking about is one where the name of it really explains what it is. The name is Calling All Californians, hashtag shop safe, shop local. Because local businesses, as you said, Alexon, are absolutely critical sources of employment for communities. And so by shopping local, we're directing people to help each other to save those jobs in their communities. But by saying shop safe, we're saying not just should everybody, working people and customers, obey the protocols, but also this campaign makes it easier for these small local businesses to get personal protective equipment, to get tools to do more of their business online, so that this is about safety and health as well as protecting those most vulnerable businesses, particularly businesses owned by Black and brown people, so that we protect the employment base and we give ourselves the chance for the kind of robust recovery that we all want.
You know, last time we had you on the show, I think it was back in May, you said California was in a big hole. Is it getting deeper now because we're having to shut down some indoor operations, although gyms and nail salons will stay open? What's your take on that, gyms and nail salons staying open? And do you think the economic $54 billion hole is going to get much larger before you can solve it?
Look, I think we've seen a couple of good employment reports that give us a sense of what is possible. But again, Alexon, this is going to be an environment that is dominated by health and by this COVID-19 virus. And that's exactly what Governor Newsom is doing. He's trying to make sure that we take care of the health issue, that he follows the data about health, not just by industry, not just by business, but also by county and by geography, to make sure that if it looks as if the virus is speeding up, that he then can take actions to protect working people and to protect customers so that we can have a robust recovery. I believe we're going to come out of this better than we went into it. But along the way, Governor Newsom is going to be managing the tension, the natural tension between the desire to reopen and the need to make sure we take care of the health and safety of Californian citizens.
You know, this week, President Trump obviously pushing to reopen schools, or they could possibly lose federal funding. Do you think California is ready to reopen schools?
Well, I think if you've listened to what the governor said, he said we are going to reopen, but are we going to reopen the same way that we reopened schools in the fall of 2019, last year? I think it's pretty clear that there are going to be protocols and rules about schools, just the way there are for businesses. And so that we're going to have a new way of providing education, really regardless of age group. So I think it's going to be really important, and the task force is focused on trying to make sure that everybody in California, every kid in California has access to that education, because it's going to be changed, and there are going to be new ways of teaching kids, because by definition, once again, health is going to have to come first.
So I got 30 seconds, and I just want to finish real quick because obviously you're saying that Governor Newsom has played this the best way he has to this point. Are you saying, one, that he's played it as best as he could and he's made no mistakes in all of this? And number two, do you think he's picked some winners and losers in all of this? I mean, again, not shutting down gyms, but shutting down indoor restaurants.
Look, I don't think, first of all, I think he's done a very good job, full stop. I don't think that there's any way to manage in a time of this kind of uncertainty in a way when you look back, you'd say it was perfect. What he's done is take the absolute right approach, which is to put health first, to be very careful about reopening, and then to take in the data and react to it. When it appears something speeding up, to react and to take precautionary measures to make sure we stay in control. So I think he deserves very high marks on this. He's taken the exact right approach, and when things go the wrong way, then he reacts very quickly and, importantly, effectively to protect the health of Californians as we reopen.
All right, Tom Steyer at his home in San Francisco. We appreciate your time here on Sunday Morning Matters once again. Be well.
Alex, so nice to talk to you again.
Thank you. So coming up, the panel will join me. Should restaurant owners like Dave Fansler be allowed to have open window dining? And new shocking report shows 2 local congressmen benefiting from the PPP loans. Next.